you're entering the championship rounds. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. In the case of Miracle Cro Cop, his revenge was in a carbonite freeze alongside Han Solo. Friday night saw a trio of MMA cards to help you get turned up. We'll recap all of it and look ahead to the middleweight bout between Luke Rockhold and Joe Machida. This is 5 Round MMA. Hello there and welcome. My name is Alex Myers alongside me and my co-host Guillermo Cita, Albert Cita. This is 5 Round MMA. How are you guys week depending on?
It sounds like you had a turned up Friday. So
well, the whole weekend. You think about it.
Sounds like a EDM weekend.
No, we had 4 MMA cards within a 48-hour span of each other. We had 3 on Friday with World Series of Fighting, Bellator MMA, Resurrection Fight Alliance, RFA, and of course those all 3 on Friday. And then Saturday had a UFC Fight Night in Poland. Cro Cop versus Gonzaga. So it was basically, if you wanted some MMA, you had it there for you. So let's start off with the UFC card. Talk about that. Cro Cop's revenge. Just thoughts on the outcome of the fight.
Well, it was difficult to watch to begin with. It was on the Fight Pass.
Oh yeah.
So everything I saw was kind of highlights of it. But I was, in the heavyweight division, I'm just gonna say you always have a puncher's chance. So I mean, like even Cro Cop, that he's older, he's always going to have a chance with the big right hand or elbow in this case. So it's just good to start getting more names out there in the heavyweight division because it's really thin.
I think when it comes to some of these fighters, I think when they get a good rest, it does the body good. And I think Cro Cop showed it because sometimes fighters, if they're inactive, they actually become worse. But I think when like these guys who have been in these huge battles and been fighting their whole career, a good rest is something good because I think Cro Cop actually looked pretty good, even though I don't think this was considered a high caliber heavyweight fight.
Yeah.
At the same time, I do think that Cro Cop looked a lot better. I think the rest did a lot good for him, and I think he really, like you said in the beginning intro, I mean, he wanted to serve up some revenge because Gabriel Gonzaga would be a nobody if he didn't knock out Cro Cop.
Well, I want to touch on that base about. People get a little too excited about Cro Cop. I mean, yeah, he did get his revenge against Gonzaga, but should we be making plans for him to fight other heavyweights down in the UFC? I mean, this is a guy who had 4 wins in the UFC total.
No matter what, he always has name.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's gonna elevate some of these young heavyweights, but that is a good
young heavyweights. I mean,
there's not many. That's my point. But you have at least a name now with the win over Gonzaga that you can build off of that. So
I mean, Albert, do you see should we even be talking about future UFC bouts for Cro Cop? Yeah, I mean, like, oh god, who's gonna fight? There's nobody to fight.
I mean, this one made a lot of sense because Gabriel Gonzaga was kind of in limbo in the heavyweight division, and Cro Cop, they didn't want Bellator to pick him up, so they just had.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Well, I just remember like a year ago that you guys said like, oh, all these Strike Force guys in the UFC. Now we're gonna see so many different matchups.
Over a year ago.
Yeah, over a year ago, and now it seems like we passed that point, and now it's rerun. So I mean, I don't know what Albert thinks on that because
okay, well the kind of point I'm trying to get here is like these are 2 old heavyweights, and they're in the main event, and you say Cro Cop wins. He's 40 years old. This does nothing for the UFC's heavyweight division at all other than just to fill an event card. So basically earlier this week he had 2 heavyweight bouts that were announced: Stefan Struve versus Big Nog in Brazil, kind of old versus new. Also, again, your boys, Todd Duffy got his fight against Frank Mir, a UFC fight in July, old versus new again. So now we're finally starting to see 2 young guys who are, I think, not even the 30. I think Struve is 29?
See, these matchups, I still think they're still stretching out that very limited heavyweight division. And this is their way of really stretching out by having the old versus the new. This Gabriel Gonzaga match, wherever, to tell you the truth, I think it was more of a, we still have a heavyweight division, don't worry about it kind of thing. And I think these next 2 fights they're stretching it out because I really do think they could just got it over with and then Ted Duffy versus Stefan Struve, to tell the truth.
True.
No,
I mean, so what's the heavyweight division? Are they just relying on Ken Velasquez fighting in Mexico every time now? Is that the bread and butter?
Well, he hasn't fought in Mexico, so.
But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it come June time, and then what if he wins?
Your
then
boy,
what?
Brandon Schaub, he's going down to 205.
So this is I think this is a disaster. I think for the heavyweight division.
It's just like you said. I think a good idea would be a tough heavyweights division.
Yeah.
Bring in new blood. Put an age limit on that.
Yeah.
And then see if you can bring up new stars.
I was excited to finally see, like, remember what Todd Duffy said that, hey, Frank Mir, give a guy a shot who's outside the division, almost younger too. Frank Mir's pushing 35. Nogueira's what, almost 40.
Yeah.
Struve is, even though he's been in the UFC forever, I don't think he's even 30 yet. So it is this like new blood rising.
We just need the young guys to perform to that level.
The other thing I wanted to say too, if you listen to Chael Sonnen's podcast, when he had Karango on the show, he said that Karango never cut weight on his whole wrestling career. He always wrestled the weight he was in. And he wrestled in heavyweight because guess what? Even though he was like 220 or 207, which was the bare minimum, he still had to wrestle heavyweight because he was not going to cut weight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these MMA fighters should now take that route as far as the heavyweight division. I mean, if you're coming in at like a short heavyweight, maybe try it out. Why not? This division I think is open for grabs. I know that when you get to the elite level, like the Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos, you're like, whoa, I don't know about these monsters.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can make your name for yourself if you think about it.
Yeah, I think didn't like Forrest Griffin used to cut down from like 240, 250.
Yeah, and he
205.
If it was a different era, it would have been perfect for him just to not cut weight at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is what's his name? Anthony Rumble Johnson.
Yeah.
He made a name for himself going to heavyweight.
Yeah.
And then coming back down to light heavyweight.
Cut
so.
to a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he can win the light heavyweight.
Yeah.
And then
that'd be awesome.
And then quickly compete for the heavyweight.
Dude, turn around. And one last point you said about how Gabriel Gonzaga was basically made famous because of Cro Cop. I always kind of like hard feelings toward Gonzaga because he was a man who took away Couture versus Cro Cop back in the day right after Pride. So I was like, Gabriel Gonzaga, man, this guy took everything away from us, but then he did give us one of the most famous head kicks ever. So I mean, again, weren't you kind of disappointed like you see Cro Cop be who he was in Pride in the UFC?
I was a little disappointed because you saw all his devastating knockouts in Pride. So but Albert's the big Gabriel Gonzaga fan, so he was always cheering for a UFC heavyweight title.
I just want to see some new blood. That's all I was cheering. I was cheering for that new blood.
And he loved the mouthpiece.
And I was a sucker for that cool mouthpiece. But
the two guys who kind of like fizzled out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Cro Cop never lived up to his expectations, and Gonzaga we knew who he was after what he challenged Couture for the title, got beat up by Couture. So
my real question to anybody out there is, who was excited for this fight? That's my real question to anyone out there.
Back to what I was saying earlier too. Ryan Couture is another perfect example. He wasn't the biggest heavyweight, and look, he had the heavyweight belt.
Yeah.
So I just think a lot of people need to just quit cutting weight if you make that heavyweight limit, because I think it's open for grabs right now as far as establishing yourself.
Yeah, because we talk about maybe even like cutting down the curve because like 265. I mean, is there really that guys out there? I think the UFC is looking to market guys who in the heavy division who are absolutely cut because they don't want the big guys who come at 250 with the kind of soft in the middle. They never push those guys at all.
But you see, Cain Velasquez weighs 240. 235 on a good weight cut, but I mean that's compared to when he fought Brock Lesnar at 265 or 260, whatever he came in. I mean, like you're talking about almost a 30-pound difference, and he demolished Brock Lesnar. So I mean, it's possible out there to go in at 230 and still have a good camp with these guys cutting down to 205. So
so let's move on to Friday night. We'll go back in time to the trio of MMA cards, the RFA, which is basically taking very good pride in being the division before the division, right? The organization before the UFC. They had a card. World Series of Fighting had a card. That was a disaster leading up to it, and also Bellator MMA had a card. Let's start with World Series of Fighting. They lost their co-main event. They lost their co-main event on Tuesday because Melvin Gillard refused to do like any paperwork or head in his medicals at all. So Ray Self said, you're out of here. So they had to bump up Nick Newell to the co-main event star, which I think he should have been anyways because he's like their star.
Yeah.
And also the day before the weigh-ins, they lost their main event, David Branch versus Ryan Marks, because Ryan Marks became dehydrated and had to be pulled out for medical reasons. So all these shuffles, they still were able to pull a card together. The star of the card was David Branch, who seems to be their postal board now behind Justin Gaethje. David Branch is their middleweight division champion. Now he's kind of going after the light heavyweight title. Some people are kind of criticizing him for like maybe just kind of reaching too much. But you guys like the fact that he's going after it?
No, I think that's perfect. I mean, why not? If he wants to prove that he's the best at World Series of Fighting in those weight classes, boxers do it all the time. You see a champion in multiple different weight classes. Why can't UFC or MMA fighters do the same? So the other thing is Nick Newell. I mean, that he is the star of World Series of Fighting, whether, he just fought for the belt not too long ago, and he's still putting, I think people are excited to see him. So why not, display that? So.
Well, in boxing, Guillermo, the weight classes are very close together.
And
that's a good point, though. But go ahead.
But even though I do think they really do need to close up those big gaps, I mean, I never saw an issue with having too much belts. as far as in combat sports. In wrestling, there's a big issue to that. But in combat...
So you want a European Championship fan?
Yeah, well, I'm okay with the European
TV title? No?
I don't know about that. Yeah, the TV title and the, you know...
I thought you liked the TV title.
I'm not lying. I like the TV
So you like all belts then?
So yeah, so I'm a belt type of guy. But yeah, I really do think like I think Diego Sanchez said it best too. You know, if they would have had just him, if they would have made another special weight class. He thinks he would have
160,
right? Yeah, 160. He said he was to sell on that. But as far as a different way, I mean, right now World Series of Fighting, I think needs to really establish these stars. And what better way to say this? You have this reigning defending champion in 2 weight classes that can't be beat. I mean. That's epic to me. That's a good selling point. I mean, I see things in posters having him have one strap on one hand and then the other one the other.
To your point, Guillermo, like in boxing, you see guys with multiple belts all the time. But is it in MMA? Is that like the mecca to hold 2 different belts in 2 different weight classes? Because that's like the ultimate, right? Yeah. Dan Henderson held 2 belts at one time.
Randy Couture.
That's like the ultimate, right?
Yeah.
You become a champion, and the next goal, here's so many guys. Oh, I'm going to win this title, then I'm going to go back down and go back up. So that it is the ultimate mecca. I think MMA is.
And
to
if
win
you were to make
belts.
the weight classes a little bit closer together, it wouldn't be so harsh on the actual fighters to do those weight cuts.
And that's my next point.
There's a big gap, and that kind of.
You talked about Ronnie Marks missing or not being hydrated enough. I mean, that probably played into his weight cut. So I mean, why not? You know, some of these guys are forcing themselves to get down to that level.
And you can get the super fights even more done. Because they don't have to do that again. That drain cut. Because dude, I walk around at 180 and I cut down to 155. But if we had those in between ones, then they can maybe agree on those in between weight classes.
Yeah, I think that's now you said it last week is you know, what is the science between these guys cutting weight and then the dangers behind that. So that's what I really want to know.
I think Ronnie Marks made weight, but like he almost like passed out afterwards. Like, no, you're not any good. But congrats to David Branch is on the way to maybe becoming like I said, the mecca in MMA is to get 2 belts at one time. I mean, BJ Penn tried it, couldn't do it, and then it's just kind of hard. I guess that's the ultimate thing to do, I think. Let's move over to Bellator 136. Will Brooks defended his lightweight title against Dave Jansen. Will Brooks, the only man to defeat Michael Chandler 2 times in a row. Finally, now he got past the Michael Chandler, news like, I beat him twice, right? Let's go. So he's kind of starting his reign. Now, also on the card was a former, I guess, was he talking Tender Sadawad?
Yeah,
he made
a big run.
Yeah.
to capture a championship fight.
Yeah,
and he was in the finals. So.
Yeah, he was also the only man to beat Will Brooks. So the kind of like maybe
Will Brooks has 1 loss, and it's to Sadawad. Even though Will Brooks already got his revenge, but it went to decision. So I think there's still some kind of effort. I mean, in Bellator, I think each fighter isn't that far away from getting a title shot. I think we saw that with the light heavyweight. And who, what's his name, faced after chemo. So I do think if Sadawad can get a couple more wins, if he says it, I'm pretty sure it can happen.
Yeah. Speaking of Bellator, you guys like this whole injunction thing on Rampage and keeping
Those
Rampage?
Little girls.
Is it more about keeping Rampage, bringing them back to Bellator?
No,
or is it my kind of just like throwing a jab at UFC?
I think it's a jab towards Quentin Rampage and a jab towards the UFC.
Just kind of make him mad a little bit.
Yeah, it's you promised us this, and this in your contract. You didn't comply, and now you want to leave us. I'm gonna get back at you. I think that's what it really comes down to.
Their quote was kind of funny, like, "Oh, we can't wait to have Rampage back at the Bellator family" or something like that. Like, does anybody really want Rampage? Yeah, that's why UFC's like, we're gonna look to protect our interests, but then we're not really worried about it because it's just Rampage anyways.
Yeah,
well, it's true, but I don't know if I like or love it because I know at face value it seems wrong, but at the end of the day, is it really that wrong for them to still try to fight something that they believe shouldn't have happened in the first place?
Protecting their assets, right?
Yeah. So I tell the truth, I really can't side with either or. It's just one of those things that it's like
I just don't think why they couldn't come to a table and say, you know what, I want to release from this contract, done deal. Why does Rampage? Well, I complied to my contract and go behind their back and go contact the UFC or UFC vice versa. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's the big deal of just you do it in other sports where they come into the table, hey, release me from my contract. I know I have a no
buyout
trade.
or
Yeah,
a
I know I
buyout.
have a buyout, or I don't have a buyout, but I want to terminate this contract. People do it all the time.
Yeah. I think that would have been the better thing to do. Maybe that's what it was.
And we would
Maybe
have had Rampage
maybe
this
the
coming
situation
weekend.
wasn't handled in a professional manner, and that's why we have a bad taste in our mouth.
Yeah, even the UFC said we kind of questioned Bellator's timing of this like 2 weeks before.
It seems like whenever bad blood does happen, people don't want to face each other or do face-to-face things in martial arts or in combat sports.
It's ultimate like to get that aggression, right? If there is a settled score, it would be in MMA, but we'll shall see how that. As of right now, Rampage is not allowed to fight for UFC. And last one, I want to talk about RFA 25, just because former, I guess we had him on our website for Fire Spotlight. Sam Super Tumor challenge for the RFA featherweight championship. So I was kind of excited about this because one of our guys, not our guys, but former guest guy, took the time out to answer some of our questions for us. Was in the main event, but he did come up short against Justin Lawrence, former UFC fighter, got I think TKO at the end of the first round. So unfortunately for that, but RFA kind of they're embraced too. Justin Lawrence is looking to get back in the UFC. He did defend his belt, so this is the first step to getting back to the UFC. So just that, you guys will talk about that at all? Any comments about that?
Well, no, I think for Super Sam, I think it's a step in the right direction. I know he's super young, so I mean,
was his first loss too.
Yeah, and the future is promising for him. So hopefully he can stick around and get another shot.
Yeah, this eventually. Is RFA could becoming the guy. If you're a young guy, or if you could maybe fall back and you're kind of young, just go to the RFA and they'll send you right back up again. So it's kind of like to wear the title, like the first shot for that. So Albert, anything else?
No, just the fact that that's what the RFA I think was built for. It was for these stars to kind of learn in a smaller scale, but at the same time they face UFC caliber fighters.
Yeah,
and I mean you don't know where you're at unless you face these guys, and I'm pretty sure this is more of a learning experience than anything. And the good thing is it's just one loss.
Yeah,
it's not like
and it's a championship loss.
And it's UFC a championship loss. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you don't know where you're at unless you have these type of fights. So I'm pretty sure this is what the RFA was created. This is what their mindset was, and so I think overall it was a good card, and I hope RFA keeps it up.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're embracing that too. Like this, you guys come here to go. It's like almost like college basketball, right? Kentucky, is it Kentucky, right?
Yeah,
you come here for 1 year. We'll win a national championship, and I'll guarantee you'll be like a first round pick for the NBA, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. We'll see. So we're gonna take a little break right now. I want to talk about it's inching closer. Albert, do you hear it? The dragon is rising.
What?
Machida versus Rockhold this Saturday. So stick around, guys.
Please visit 5roundmma.com on our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. 5roundmma.com.
We are back. Thanks for sticking around. This Saturday, the dragon will rise again, and I like it whenever Machida fights because you ever know
the dragon.
You ever know a change?
The dragon left.
No, isn't there always a change in Albert's mood when Machida fights gets closer and closer? He's almost like he's training with them, gets more quiet and quaint, more in the zone. So Albert, how excited are you to see your boy Little Machida versus Luke Rockhold in a critical middleweight bout?
Yeah, I mean that's a good comparison. I think I even started changing the way I eat, the time I go to sleep, the time I wake up. It's almost like I do it like subconsciously. It's not something I plan, but yeah, and I know it's almost fight time because I'm feeling it already. I'm feeling a little bit tense. I feel a little bit drained. I'm
Luke Rockhold's coming.
No, was it last week we talked about Machida's Instagram?
Yeah.
He has awesome one like earlier a couple days ago where he's washing the dishes, has a headband on. He's always training, and he's like this, washing dishes. It's all back away, and then the other way, back and forth, and he kind of winks at the camera. It's always training.
Machida,
that's not
Machida
boring,
feeds you gold. That's gold to me. I think.
It sounds like buying off the Karate Kid.
So UFC on Fox, Machida versus Rockhold.
Huge card right here.
Yes, Saturday, April 18th from Prudential Center in New Jersey.
Why couldn't it be in Vegas? I'll be in Vegas next weekend.
We're in Jersey and now I'm Quintus State. You better not be booing Machida or Rockhold. That's what I'm saying. This card's actually pretty stacked. It is a UFC on Fox card.
Unfortunately, the stackness went a little level down due to Yoel Romero.
Yoel Romero being so fearful of the Jacare's bite. He's on my knees hurt, so I gotta back out. So now in place, actually big props to Chris Camozzi for stepping up and listening a week.
Yeah.
But I guess it was true that Jacare already beat Chris Camozzi, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like,
but I mean, like I'm pretty sure it affects their pay.
Cro Cop got his revenge yesterday, so that means why not him?
Why not Chris Camozzi? How big of a hit is this to Jacare?
No, I think that if Jacare wins, he should be the next challenger for the
over Rockhold or Machida.
I think so. I think Jacare had earned it before that, to be honest. Just his
That's a good point,
his type of work that he's done. If you look at Luke Rockhold and Machida, they had losses along this current run that they're in.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Jacare has had the longer run. So
obviously, Rockhold lost to the current number contender Vitor Belfort, and Machida did lose already to
exactly.
Chris
And to me,
Weidman.
Jacare, why are you going to penalize Jacare for Yoel Romero stepping down?
Albert, do you agree with that?
I disagree. For some reason, I don't think
he just cares about Machida.
No, and that's not the thing. I really do think they don't want to get behind Jacare for some
Really?
reason. I really. I mean, even though I think Yoel Romero would have been a good title eliminator fight, I still don't think that was a fight to really push Jacare into that title contention.
So you think they would have given the winner of Rockhold versus Machida?
I really do think so. I think even if Yoel Romero would have stayed in this card and Jacare would have beat Yoel Romero, I think they still would have given it to Luke Rockhold or Machida.
But let me give you this scenario. Didn't Machida just fight what's his name, Chris Weidman, and get destroyed by Chris Weidman? Do people really want to see that?
That's where you're wrong.
This is where Jacare makes more sense exactly to me.
Why, yeah, if you're listening to Guillermo, it doesn't make sense. But if you watch the fight, it makes perfect sense because Machida opened up a can on
the
on
only
Chris
one
Weidman.
Is Luke Rockhold who can upset or change this scenario.
In all fairness, after Weidman, Machida did knock out CB Dollaway. So.
And then at the same time, we're not. Don't rule out Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort wins, Machida's right back in it.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it really
depends on a lot of things, but I'm just saying, if Chris Weidman stays champion, you can't justify Machida fighting him.
It's called go rewatch the first fight, and that justifies the second
so,
one.
In all actuality, is this a 3-horse race, a 4-horse race for the middleweight championship?
It really was a 4-horse race because Yoel Romero has been on a really good streak. Now with him being hurt, now it's really a three-man horse race.
Yeah.
However you want to say
it. It's a 3-man race.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be the next number 1 contender. What really is going to throw off who wins the Bellator versus Weidman, because it's going to eliminate certain people. And then the other thing is Weidman's talking about fighting John Bone Jones. What's going on?
He's already looking past this whole division already, isn't he?
So it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting card, especially whoever wins out of these two bouts, the main event and co-main event.
Yeah, I remember a couple weeks ago we had a pretty big featherweight bout between Chad Mendes and Raquel Lamas. Now we have the man kind of lost in shuffle. Now Cub Swanson returns to action against Max Holloway.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
This actually could be the sleeper, right? This could be the sleeper on the card.
Yes, I love Max Holloway. I love Cub Swanson. They're gonna bring it. I think this is my personal opinion for being a fan. I want Max Holloway to win, and I'll tell you why. Because I think Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor too would be money. The only guy to go the distance is Conor McGregor, and I think
that's true.
Max Holloway has been throwing shots already, saying, "Hey, I'm not scared of you. You're the only person you never talk trash against is Max Holloway because I took you to the distance." So I've already seen some of the trash talk. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
If you get past Cub Swanson, right?
True.
Yeah.
But I mean,
the thing I see interesting.
That's the fan in me.
The thing I see interesting about this bout is, for once in a while, I think we have 2 fighters that have everything to gain in this bout and everything to lose.
Yeah.
If Max Holloway loses against Cub Swanson, he goes back into that little weird section that he was before, and
it's like the 6, 7, 8 spot, right?
But Max Holloway is so young, and he's been thrown to the wolves, which is so good. Yeah. But he has a point. He's gonna go back down to the shuffle.
And he's 23, and this is when I think he has to really excel, and he'll just get back into that limbo, and he probably have to do 3 more fights back to this just to get back to where he was at.
23, wow.
And Cub Swanson for being
at the
so
same
high.
time, if Cub Swanson were to lose, I think that's it.
He's like,
well, I mean, I don't think it's it.
I'm not saying his career. I'm not saying
he's kind of stuck in that number 5, number 6 spot, right?
I think he's going to be stuck in that, in that 6-5 spot. And I don't see him breaking any ladder. It's just it would be too much of a big ladder for him to reclimb again. And I'm not saying that he can't. I'm saying I don't think UFC would really.
No, I think it would just take him like a year to 2 years to get back to the level where he was.
And that's a long time.
You got guys like Frank Yeager, Uriah Faber's back. You got Raquel Lamas, Chad Mendes.
Frank Yeager beat him.
Yeah, and you got Jose Aldo maybe might return.
That's why it's very interesting. I think both fighters got a lot to gain and a lot to lose.
Interesting.
I love that matchup.
Also, let's switch down to the prelims. Your boy. Is it your boy Patrick Cummins or your boy Patrick Cummins?
I think we all became a little big fans of Patrick Cummins.
The only reason I always cheer for Patrick Cummins because he always makes Daniel Cormier look that much better.
Yeah, it does.
True. Because I go back to that matchup and everybody was saying, "Oh, why is he gonna fight this washed-up fight or whatever?" When
this guy's never had no experience.
Yeah, and with every win Patrick Cummins gets,
Starbucks?
the better looks at Daniel Cormier. And And for once, Patrick Cummins is gonna get. I think his hardest test yet
since Daniel Cormier, right?
Since Daniel Cormier, yeah.
But come on,
you throw him to the number one contender. Your first fight
he didn't
ever
have a full camp, whatever. So the odds were really against him this time. There's no excuses, and it's time to pretty much show up while you're in the UFC.
He's going up against Ovid St. Pierre.
I think Patrick Cummins, for me, it feels like more of a Rocky story. This guy that came out of nowhere, and he's rising up slowly, and he's now fighting potential guys for hopefully getting the title shot soon. And where did this come from? So to me, it feels like the true underdog story.
True, yeah, and obviously this is, like you said, the first kind of like almost like a natural progression, right? Like your first fight at the UFC isn't going to be against Daniel Cormier like naturally, right? Unless you're coming, unless you're a champion from else. Now he's kind of like going up there now. Ovid St. Pierre, who just knocked out Shogun, who did lose to Ryan Bader, who was kind of always in the title mix.
Ryan Bader
title contention guys.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a big step up for
Right. Winner out of here cracks the top 10 easily.
Yeah,
and they pretty much got the typical top 10 opponents next after this. You're gonna get the Ryan Baders.
I think this card should be
Rashad Evans.
This card shows a lot of fights where a lot of these fighters have something to gain. And usually other cards we're kind of debating.
Yeah.
This one, every fight honestly has something to gain for each fighter.
Another fight on the prelim card, Jim Miller's back. And he's this guy who's like almost how close was he to a title shot? How close was he almost to a title shot?
Yeah.
Going up against Benel Darush, who was last seen beating Darren Cruikshank. So one of those things too, a guy who's 10-1. If he could beat this veteran guy, Jim Miller, who's tough as nails, who was this close to title shot, hence the sky's the ceiling for Benel, and again Jim Miller back to the drawing board, right?
I think that's what Jim Miller is known for. If he can defeat Jim Miller, you got a title shot.
Yeah, that's the formula, right?
Then Jim Miller, this is a good way to get back on the horse. So.
Yep. Also, one of the cards to round out the main card was a women's strawweight between Felix Herring, the super popular fighter from the Tough. She's super popular on Instagram. You guys follow Instagram. She's like 100,000 followers or even more than that. Against, I think maybe the UFC probably won't say it, but I think it's the kind of girl they want to rule the strawweight division in Paige Van Sant, right?
Mm-hmm. When I see Paige Van Sant, I see probably if you were to draw up, this is how I want my champion to look like as far as this weight class, whatever. I think she fits the mold.
So you got the outside appeal of kind of round aroused Eugenia Carano.
It's true.
It sounds like you guys are just trying to tiptoe with saying
that she's hot. She's hot.
She's easy on the eyes.
Easy on the eyes. But she's only 21 too, so and she only has a record of I think it's 4-1. So and then Felix Herring is a veteran of the sport, so very good for her. She'll see exciting fight all around April 18th, UFC on Fox. It's always. At least now these UFC on Fox cards are getting are always pretty consistently well stacked, right?
No, some of them are over there in pay-per-view quality. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
To be honest, this card should be a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it should be pay-per-view.
And the pay-per-view should have been on UFC on Fox.
But
then we complain about Mighty Mouse being on Fox again.
Exactly, that's true.
There we go. It's a never lose. UFC just never loses. Just never wins in this house.
No.
This space, UFC's never the winner. That's it for today. I want to thank all of our sponsors. First of all, 5 Rounds Clothing. Check out a nice shirt. So follow them on Twitter at 5 Rounds. Rock and Green eco-friendly cleaning products, and of course the RMA Foundation. The movement to stop bullying and raise the awareness to how to prevent bullying, all that stuff. It's a epidemic that's still constantly it grows all the time, and the RMA Foundation is definitely trying its best to raise awareness of it. So please visit them at redemptionmartialarts.com to see what you can do to help the cause. Until then, make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 5 Round MMA. Subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic. Please check out 5roundmma.com, spectrumvita.com, sports, entertainment, lifestyle, EDM website apparently now. I think that's it. So thank everybody for listening. Albert, what do you got?
I just want to thank our executive producer, Guillermo Machida, our sound engineer over there, Steven Roslo with Roslo Records. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. If you have the Dirty Network, check out that Macho Man documentary. It's awesome.
Genius.
Oh, yeah. The cream of the crop.
To get grimy.